Shalom, shalom. It's Brother Yatazadak, hero of Israel. I want to start off by giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakwadash, giving double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. We're continuing in their doctrine, and they taught us the truth through the power of spirit of the Ba'ashem Kakwadash. That's the Holy Spirit. Now, let's get right into it. This is Book of Deuteronomy Chapter 15 and verse 12. Now, these precepts that I prepared, I'm going to touch on things like the being bidden unto the marriage of the Lamb, which is ultimately to be joined unto Yahushua Mashiach and to be given the spiritual the morning star, which is the laws in the inward parts, which is the spiritual power as prophesied in the Holy Bible. And the various precepts I'm going to give is going to show you the foreshadowing and the prophecies that pertain to those such things. Now, this is Deuteronomy Chapter 15 and 12. Reads, "And if thy brother, an Hebrew man, or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee." So the law states that if a Hebrew or a Hebrewess, which is Hebrew man, or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, that they would serve you for 6 years. In the 7th, they would let them go free and liberally furnish them from their of their flocks, of their herds, for their journey out of their master's house, which was their brethren. Now, Deuteronomy 15 and 13. "And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty." So that goes into what I was just speaking on. But let's move on down to the following verses to get the point. Verse 16, "And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee and thine house, because he is well with thee." Verse 17, "Then thou shalt take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maid servant thou shalt do likewise." So whether it was a Hebrew man or a Hebrewess, a Hebrew woman, his brethren ultimately what would do would take an awl and pierce it through their ear. Now, this is a foreshadowing of the mark of the beast, which is the microchip spoken of in Revelation chapter 13. And this is a way that Esau is attempting to, which is the devil that the Bible speaks of, the so-called white man, to get back his birthright from the patriarch, which is Jacob and their descendants. Now, so this is what he's working on is a digital awl, which is the RFID chip, which is a sort of a digital stamp that he would use to claim you as his property. Same like they do in the so-called farming industry. You have you brand cows, you brand your cattle with your mark or your design to show that they belong to you. Now, this is also, and I'll save this for another lesson, but you also read about that in the if you go into the Greek in the book of Revelation, which is also a Roman Greek custom, where they would some followers of their idols, they would devout followers, they would stamp themselves, uh, whether it be on their forehead, chest, whatever the case may be, in in um, in adoration and as a way to show themselves dedicated to their idol. Now, so Deuteronomy 15 and 17, that is a foreshadowing of what you would call the mark of the beast, the RFID chip. Now, you can also go to well, actually, I'll save that for another time. But let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 12 and verse 1. Now, the book of Ecclesiastes speaks about what's once done will be, and the Most High will be done. The Most High, what was done will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Shortly paraphrasing, just so I can move on to the next precept, Genesis 12 and 1. So all things that were written for, they are in these various accounts, they show a pattern of things to come in the future. And also the book of Luke chapter 16, Ezekiel, I believe, chapter, let's see if I can go to that precept. Ezekiel, this is the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 and verse 3. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. So the children of Esau, which are the wicked of the earth, they are wiser than Daniel. And in the book of Luke chapter 16, it speaks about the children of this world being wiser than children of light. Now, this is why Esau, the so-called white man, he has to introduce an actual chip that he will put in you in order so that one may buy or sell. Why? Because he is a carnal man, and his mark has to be carnal. Now, our mark is not carnal. Those that are of the elect, and we call ourselves the hopeful elect, Abaratazah, for that number. But our mark is a spiritual mark, just like this new temple that is being raised up in the land of Egypt, and it speaks about that in Isaiah chapter 19. Now, this is a spiritual mark that the elect, which is the 1/3, Abaratazah, well, that number, we make, if you show ourselves diligent and endure unto the end, the mark that for the elect, which will get delivered out of America, Babylon the Great via the chariots of the Most High God, the so-called UFOs that you read about in the Holy Bible, is a spiritual mark with the Thawa, to be exempt from judgment. Why? Because there's a judgment coming upon this land as these prophecies, the last of these prophecies, are coming to pass. So the children of Esau, being carnal men, they have to use a carnal, an actual mark, just like what was mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy 15 and 17. Now, let's go to book of Genesis, just to move on to the next precept. Genesis 12. Actually, Genesis chapter 12. It's book of Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will shew thee. So the Most High God called Abram or Abraham, later known as Abraham, from the land of Mesopotamia, from the land of the Chaldeans, which was the where ancient Babylon was. Now, the Mesopotamians, where various other Shemites dwelt there during that time. You have the see if I can just get that precept real quick. Slovakia. Which is why in certain accounts it's called Syria or Aram. Why? Because there were other Shemites that dwelt right along with the Hebrews, and those that would be called Hebrews in later times. Now, Salakia. So you have, this is Genesis 28:6. This is book of Genesis, chapter 28, verse 6. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram, that means in the Hebrew, the plain of Aram, which was again, in Mesopotamia, also known as ancient Babylon, also known as Syria, which is Syria, you go into the Hebrew, or Syrians, sometimes they're referenced as the Arameans, which are Shemites. But that's not the precept I was necessarily looking for. So you had the chosen seed dwelling amongst other Shemites, which were Hebrews. Why? Because Abraham was called a Hebrew. Why? Because he was of that lineage, of that chosen line. And this is Genesis chapter 11 and verse 10. Genesis 11 and 10, and it reads, "These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood." And you read on down. So Arphaxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. Salah begat Eber, Ibar, verse 14, and see if I can find the point. So this is let me scroll on down. So you have Abraham was a descendant of Ibar. Now see if I can get that precept I was looking for. So you have this is Genesis 10 and verse 22. Genesis 10 and 22. So you have Ibar, which to whom Abraham came out of and was a descendant of. And Genesis 10 and 22, the verse will start at 21. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Ibar. So Shem was the father of all the Hebrews, the brother of Japheth, the elder. Even unto him were children born. So you have Shem, you have the children of Ibar. Now this is why you have the Ishmaelites. They have their language, which is the Arabic, is a Semitic language. You have languages like the Aramaic, which is a from Aram, which is a Shemitic language. Semitic. You have Hebrew, but Hebrew is the man that had preserved that language after the flood, because you read about that in the following chapter, and it was preserved through his throughout those generations, which is through Ibar, the brother of Japheth, which was Shem. So it went through Shem. Eber says the children of Shem, Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. So this is why you have certain times you have Aram being mentioned, which is in the Hebrew that just means the exalted or lifted up, or to lift up. But the point is that when Abraham was called out of the land of the Chaldeans, Mesopotamia, you see it in various accounts. It's called different things, but the point is he was called out of the land, which also in other accounts you read Chaldeans. I believe in the book of Judith, which Chaldean just means I believe it's Kashadiah, which Ka is like Shad or Shaddad is a devil. So Ka Shadiah, that means it's like devils. Why? Because it was the children of Aram and these various other Shemites were into idolatry and idolatrous practices, which is why Abraham was called out of Mesopotamia or Babylon, and we're being called out of Babylon today. Why? Because the Most High God, He chose us out of the chosen seed back onto His good graces. So now this is Genesis 12 and 1. Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, from thy kindred. The kindred were the Aramites, and the you have the other Asherites, Arphaxites, the Ludites, Elamites, and the Elamites, which are what you would call so-called Persians, Iranians, and these various other Middle Eastern countries. You have so-called East Indians. You know, they're Shemites also, which is why some of them, as you can see, you know, they have a similar sort of and other Middle Eastern. You have this, you know, similar complexion, similar trying to find the correct word, similar makeup of the features and so on and so forth. So it says, Genesis 12 and 1, and from thy father's house unto a land that I will shew thee. And the Most High God, He's showing us the land, which is the through these words, salvation, and He's showing us the judgment written, the promises, which were given unto the patriarchs and passed down to their children, which we are our forefathers, because the Holy Bible speaks about reincarnation. Now, these various concepts like reincarnation, forms of worship, belief, these other nations take out of the Bible. You know, you have well, I'll save that for another time, but the point is, the Most High God, he's showing us the land, which is the Holy Land, which is Jerusalem, which it was a people before it was a place. Now let me go into that. See if I can get that precept real quick. I wasn't gonna make this long, but you know, you got precepts that pop up. So just to get that real quick. Sometimes you may get precepts that pop in your mind, and you want to strike the iron while it's still hot. Surely, like the brothers say. But see if I can get this real quick. There's two different ones I want to get. Get the one in Judith first. So this is Judith chapter 5 and verse 7. This is the book of Judith 5 and 7. Salakia, and it reads, "And they sojourned heretofore in Mesopotamia, because they would not follow the gods of their fathers, which were in the land of Chaldea," which is where you get the term, not the term Chaldean. And you read about Mesopotamia because you had upper, lower Mesopotamia, you had ancient Babylon in that area, and which is ultimately in I believe in the area of the Fertile Crescent. But the point is that it says that verse 8, "For they left the way of their ancestors and worshipped the God of heaven, the God whom they knew, so they cast them out from the face of their gods," which you read that in the book of Psalms 145, that the gods of the nations, they're nothing but idols and vanity. And it reads, "And they fled into Mesopotamia." So you had these other Shemites that had a hatred towards the chosen lineage. Why? Because they were called out to serve the God of heaven and the creator of heaven and earth, starting with Abraham and his kindred. So you see, there isn't just with the Edomites this certain hatred, and it's not just with, you know, an ancient hatred between like you read about Jacob and Esau, and then you read about Isaac and Ishmael. So you have these ancient hatreds that are still passed on today through those people towards God's chosen people. This is why in the book of Psalms you read about there being a confederacy to cut off the name of Israel, and that's spearheaded by the devil that the Bible speaks of, the so-called white man, which are the Edomites. So it says, Judith 5 and verse 8, for they left the way of their ancestors and worshipped the God of heaven, the God whom they knew, so they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled into Mesopotamia, and sojourned there many days, and then their God commanded them to depart from the place where they sojourned, to go into the land of Canaan, where they dwelt and were increased with gold and silver, and with very much cattle. So eventually, the nation of Israel was driven into the land of Egypt. And the book of Hosea speaks about the Most High calling his son out of Egypt, which is you read about that in the book of Matthew. I believe that's Matthew chapter 2, when Joseph fled with Mary, with Yahushai, from the persecution of Herod the Great, which was an Idumean, an Edomite. But the point is that the book of Hosea talks about the Most High calling the son out of Egypt, and Israel as a whole was called out of Egypt. And on a macro level, you have the nation of Israel, we will be called out of this second Egypt. And you read about that in the book of Second Esdras. You read about that in the book of Revelation, and so on and so forth. But the point is that this is the same thing that you read about in Genesis chapter 12, and Judith right here in the book of Judith. Now let's go to the next precept, Deuteronomy 22 and 23. Salakia. Deuteronomy 22 and 23. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband, and a man find her in the city, and lie with her, then you shall bring them both unto the gate in the city, and verse 24, then you shall bring them both unto the gate of the city, and you shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he had humbled his neighbor's wife. So shalt thou put away evil from among you. So again, you have the children of Esau. They're attempting to, by eliminating the Israelites from existence, whether it be through their gradualism that they're introducing, through their sword, because you have to keep in mind Esau, he has many swords. You read about the false prophet in the book of Revelation, which that's ultimately talking about the Roman Catholic, and the and all things that came out of those Christianity, Catholicism. These are swords of Esau. You have his needles. These are his swords, his philosophies. That's talking about the false prophet, which is these doctrines that Esau had concocted and used to push his agenda against the children of Israel throughout time. So the false prophet, and you read about that in the book of Revelation. You have other religions that came out of that, like Islam. You have all these bug out doctrines. You got Jehovah's Witnesses. You have all these things are contrary to what the Bible says, on to whom belongs salvation, redemption. The prophecies tell you that Yahushua himself says that he came to cause division. In the last days there will be division. Yahushua spoke about division being in the last days. Yet you have Esau through his media, his other forms of propaganda is is promoting this unity, this getting together, gathering together of the peoples, which is ultimately the Tower of Babel all over again, Babel, which Babel means confusion in the Hebrew. But again, that false prophet in the book of Revelation, if you look into what the I saw the brothers go into it before, but just to make it short, you look into the what is it called, the Pope and let me see if I can get that real quick. Salakia. All right, Khan, Salakia. So just now I just did a search on it, but you can go into further research on the actual breakdown, and I might do a video on that, Lord willing. But it says the word Vatican literally means divining serpent, and it is derived from Vatis, which means diviner, and can serpent. So it means the Vatican means divining serpent, which is the Vatican is ultimately that false prophet. And why? Because out of it came all these philosophies, Catholicism, Christianity, which the Vatican, they claim the apostolic succession, which is ultimately Jake. If you do your research on the Dark Ages, Jake was in the position in the seats of where these Edomites are now. They when the dark nations ruled Europe in the Dark Ages, you had Jake in those positions, the apostolic succession, which had ultimately started with Yahushai and those that he taught. Now Esau is claiming succession from those people, which is ultimately the Israelites. And but the point is, you read about this in the book of Revelation, which is I don't want to get into a whole nother lesson, but this is kind of to drive the point home. Salakia. This is Revelation 16 and 13. So let's get back to the scriptures. This book of Revelation 16 and 13, and it reads, "And I saw 3 unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth." And you read about that in the book of Revelation also, that the Most High released this devil for a short time to deceive the nations. And part of it is through his philosophies. And so essentially, that's the point I was really touching on. But you have to keep in mind all these things work unto his benefit. Why? Because it goes back to that old confederacy, and to cut off Israel as a nation, which is why you see all these things coming to pass. And the Most High God, his name is Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash, is shortening the days for the elect's sake. And but the point is that this pertains to what I was bringing out in Deuteronomy 22 and 23. And that damsel, which is that virgin, betrothed to a husband, because Israel is still under that oath from the patriarchs, those and those that came out of Egypt, that were under the oath, that covenant, and we're in the transitioning phase right now. But the point is that that virgin is ultimately those that will be delivered out of America Babylon the Great. And the virgin, you read about that in Revelation chapter 14. You read about Salakia, that those not being defiled with women. This starts with 144,000. Why? Because they weren't defiled by the philosophies of Esau, and their words are without guile. And these are the ones that are teaching the gospel correctly, starting with the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And without guile in their mouth, that's talking about not perverting the true understanding in these latter days. So let's go to that precept, Revelation 14 and verse 4. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins, because women are used as you have in the book of Proverbs, you have things like strange women and wine, which is a similitude of doctrines and philosophies. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and unto the Lamb. So you have throughout the dispensation of time, you have the Yahushua Mashiach himself is called the first fruit. Read about that in the book of Corinthians. And then you have those that he taught. You have those that were raised up after him. And John 17 speaks about those that would believe in their word. Yahushua Mashiach said, I pray not for the world, but them whom thou hast given me. And that starts with those that were taught directly by Yahushua Mashiach, and then those that were raised up after that. You have Paul the Apostle, and in the time of the Romans and the Greeks, you had certain churches raised up, but ultimately what John the Revelator saw was in these latter days those that were given the true understanding, starting with Abba Vivens, 1 West, New York, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. But the first fruits here, these are those that are speaking. The 144,000 starts with those that are preaching this gospel without any guile. So it says, Revelation 14 and 4, these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto the Most High God and to the Lamb. So you have those, all the 144,000 are not here in these latter days. You have some that are in the spiritual world now. They're not all here, which is why you have these other camps. They look at the elders and apostles of GMS and they say, well, why isn't your congregation, why don't you have large congregations like we do? Well, that's because the Most High is here to redeem 1/3 of his people. And the 144,000, there are some in the spirit world as we speak. And some were back during the time of the Romans and the Greeks, which is why you read about the first fruits, Yahushai, and then the first fruits. And those same spirits are back here in the regeneration. Those that were during under the Romans in these various churches. You have the elect, not just the 144,000 that were there during that time. And these are they which follow the Lamb whatsoever he goeth. Here in the regeneration in these latter days, starting with the 144,000 and the great multitude, which is the 1/3. Revelation 14:5, and in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. And the book of Romans chapter 8 speaks about the who related a charge unto the God's elect. Why? Because Esau, the so-called white man, the accuser of our brethren, he's painting the Israelites as in a bad image, giving us calling us nut jobs or saying things like black Hebrew Israelites, which we're not black Hebrew Israelites. Black is a color. We are the Israelites, so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. But the accuser of our brethren is attempting to cause for there to be guile in our mouth, which is why you see other camps that are set up as agents, decoys, to to deceive some of the elect. But the scriptures say the elect will not be deceived. Those who follow the Lamb whatsoever he goeth, there will they be. So the first fruits, starting with the 144,000 in these latter days, and the great multitude, the 1/3. And this is verse 5 is mainly about the teachers, the pastors, which are feeding the flock through the power of Spirit Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, B'Shem Kakodash. So in their mouth was found no guile. Why? Because they're speaking this gospel, which is in these latter days being revealed, and it's with 100% truth, without guile. This isn't talking about cussing or filthy talk like some people say. They say, oh, these Hebrew Israelites, they're just out there to cuss a so-called white man out. That's not what it's mainly about. This is about feeding the elect of the Most High God, and you see that in my recent video. I could have got more on that devil, but the point, us being on the highways and byways, is to show our faith first and foremost, and to give out the word, to feed the flock, and to seal the elect. Ultimately, it's the Most High God which will do that, whether it is through our word, whether it is through our preaching, so it's not of us. This has nothing to do with us. The Most High God, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, he told the Jews when John the Baptist showed up and was baptizing the publicans and the sinners, and they refused to be baptized. But Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, through John the Baptist, he said, out of these stones I can raise up more unto thee. So this is not about us. This is about the word being revealed, the word giving its light through the Holy Spirit, Rekakudash, in these latter days. But the point is that those who are teaching this 100% truth are without fault. And like I said, the book of Revelation speaks about the accuser of our brethren. The book of Romans chapter 8 speaks about who will lay anything unto the charge unto the God's elect. Why? Because these words are tried and true. These prophecies, you can line them up with history. You can line them up with artifacts. You can line them up with the origin of words. So the Most High will justify his elect, and they will be without guile, which is those that are teaching the proper doctrine, the 100% truth, starting with the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And they taught us, we're continuing in their doctrine. Why? Because it makes sense. But the point is, let's go back to Deuteronomy 22 and 23. Salakia. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband. So we as a nation were betrothed unto the Most High God. And like Abraham was shown that place, and even Moses, he was shown many secrets. You have that were given unto the prophets. They saw these things coming to pass. These are the same things that John the Revelator writes about. But the point is that that virgin is the nation of Israel, which is in that city. Now we can go to basic precept in the book of Jeremiah, and if you're new to this, you should already know or be familiar with this precept. This is the Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. And I'm gonna have to get that other precept that I was supposed to get. Jeremiah 6 and 2. I have likened the daughter of Zion unto a comely and delicate woman. Why? Because Jerusalem was a people before it was a place. Now let me get that in the book of Maccabees. And you also read about that in the book of 2nd Esdras. This is the book of 2nd Maccabees, chapter 2nd Maccabees chapter 5 and verse 19. 2nd Maccabees 5 and 19, and it reads, 2nd Maccabees 5 and 19, nevertheless, God did not choose the people for the place's sake, but the place for the people's sake. So there you go. Now let's move on to, or let's go back to Deuteronomy 22, just to hit the nail on the head. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband. Why? Because the Most High God, although all the descendants of Yasharallah are still under that former covenant, 2/3 as prophesied will choose that the mark of the beast, which is that digital all, the MOTB. They'll choose that 2/3 of the Israelites, although they were under that oath, the oath of the covenant, which was made by the Israelites during the time after leaving Egypt, because not only was it a blood covenant, there was an oath involved. And this was passed on throughout the generations, which is why you read in the scriptures that about in a specific lineage, Most High God choosing in Isaac how the seed being called, in Isaac shall thy seed be called, shortly paraphrasing. But the point is that the Most High God, He's going to deliver His elect. 2/3 will choose that, like I read in the Deuteronomy 15, Deuteronomy chapter 15. They'll choose that physical mark, and the elect will not be deceived, which they will choose life rather than death, which is the third of the nation of Yasharallah. And it says, so that virgin is talking about the elect, starting with the 144,000 and the great multitude. Those that are here in America, Babylon the Great, and those the remnant which are throughout the four corners of the earth. But they're mainly here in America, Babylon the Great. Read about that in Isaiah 11 and 11. Most High God reaching his hand a second time to get his remnant. But here in America, Babylon the Great, this is where the majority of the deliverance is going to be going on. Why? Because the Most High God, he had declared in his prophecies that the majority of these things would come to pass and start in America, Babylon the Great. The destruction, the digital all, which is the MOTB, Revelation chapter 13, the mark of the beast, the RFID chip. That digital mark, which is physical. Why? Because Esau is a carnal man. So it says, so that virgin being betrothed is the nation of Israel as a whole. And a man find her in the city. And the scriptures speak about this, the wicked hiding in secret places and lurking for their prey. And verse 24, then you shall bring them both out into the gate of the city, and you shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not. And 2/3, and this is a foreshadowing. This thing that is written here and written in the law, this is a foreshadowing of the 2/3. Why? Because 2/3 will not cry out unto the Most High God. They will say, like it says in Deuteronomy 15 and 12, that I will stay with my master because I love my master. That will ultimately be for their destruction. As stated in Revelation 14, that'll be their demise, to their destruction. The mark of the beast, the RFID chip, those that take it, which is the 2/3. So 2/3 will not cry out, but you have the Most High's elect are crying day and night. You read about that in the book of Luke. And this is why ultimately the days have to be shortened. Why? Because the Most High God, he hears the cries of his elect, and he hears not the prayers of sinners, like it says in the book of John. So ultimately the days got to be shortened. The Most High God, he which is in the book of Luke, he's in that parable, he's called the unjust judge, because he cares not for the king. And let's see if I can get that real quick. This is book of Luke. Salakia. This is the book of Luke. Chapter 18, and Luke chapter 18 and 1, and he spake a parable unto them, to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. This is talking about the Most High. That and he is the judge. Why? Because he's going to send his only begotten Son, Yahushua Mashiach, as an angelic power, not just to gather his elect, but to destroy the enemies of the children of Israel, to avenge his elect. So it says, saying there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, And she came unto him, saying, Avenge me of my adversary. And he would not for a while, which is because ultimately, as a whole, our nation fell off. We fell off as a people, and we fell into a Gentile state of mind. And it reads, But afterward he said within himself, Though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And verse 7, And shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? And why is he bearing long with us? Why? Because the word that he has proclaimed, the prophecies that have gone out of his mouth, he says they will be accomplished. So he's not that you can bind the counsels of the Most High God, but he is bound by his word, if you can understand that. He is bound by the prophecies and the visions that he gave unto the patriarchs, unto the prophets, the seers. Why? Because it's ultimately to glorify the Most High God on the earth, to show his works amongst men. So these are the virgins that cry out. There are those that will not cry out. Those which are 2/3 of our people, they're going to choose that digital all, that mark of the beast, the RFID chip. So it says, let's go back to Deuteronomy 22 and 23. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband, so the virgin is the nation of Israel as a whole. But like I said, only 1/3 will cry out. And they're betrothed to that husband, which is our husband is the Most High. Why? Because our descendants are binded by that blood oath, by that blood covenant, and that the oath that our descendants made, Yasharallah, throughout the generations. So the damsel, because she cried not, like it says in verse 24, this is the 2/3. They're not crying out. They're going, like it says in the book of Matthew, that I believe it's chapter 21, that the Most High God bid some to the marriage, but they went to their fields, they went to their produce. You see many of our people walking after their own lusts, going after their own ways. They're not grieved for the afflictions of Joseph. They're not grieved by the afflictions of our people. Instead, they're joining with the enemy and following after their own ways, and that'll be to their destruction. Now, let me see if I can get that precept. This is Slovakia. I believe it's in the book of Amos, chapter 6 and verse 6. It's book of Amos, chapter 6 and verse 6. And it reads, Amos 6 and 6. Start at verse 3. Ye that put far away the evil day, and cause the seed of violence to come near. They lie upon beds of ivory, and stretch themselves upon their couches, and eat the lambs out of the flock, and the calves out of the midst of the stall. They chant to the sound of the viol, and envelop themselves instruments of music like David. Why? Because they chant to the sound of the viol, meaning they're following after the song, the songs of this world. Because as the elect have um that that testimony which is compared unto a song, which is that new song, which is the true understanding being revealed in these last days. That's what we're singing, the new song, the true understanding. This devil, he has a song that is enticing 2/3 of our people, and they're chanting unto the sound of that song. And verse 6, that drink wine in bowls and anoint themselves with the chief ointments, but they are not grieved for the affliction of Joseph. So they're not grieved for the affliction of our people. And let's go move on to the next precept. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 6 and verse 2. After 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Now you read about this in the book of Revelation, chapter 11. Here, Hosea 6 and 2. 2 days he will revive us. Why? Because you had to have a revealing. You had to have a certain dispensation of the gospel to be given out unto the Israelites, which is why you had to have Mashiach Yahushai come on the scene to start that ministry, to call, not just to confirm the promises unto the Jews, but to call back those Israelites that were to whom he coined the lost sheep, which were Israelites, the Gentiles, which were Israelite foreigners, which are of the same nation of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's who the Most High God is dealing with. Most High God is not dealing with all nations of the earth. So in 2 days he will revive us. So Yahushua Mashiach had to be offered up during the time of the Romans. You had to have a dispensation. You had to have a dispensation of the gospel, which was these various churches being raised up. You had to have a testimony recorded. You had to have Paul being raised up, his testimony, and things written for our understanding to be written. So this started that revival. This jump started the acceptable time, which is, like Yahushua Mashiach said, in the regeneration, those that follow me, and ultimately lead up unto the elect in these latter days, returning back unto the Most High God. In the third day he will raise us up, and we're in the third day. Why? Because this devil did not think that we would realize who we were, and the Most High God is the one who had woke us up. He did not think that the Israelites would come back to the remembrance in these latter days, and we shall live in his sight. Now, in Revelation chapter 11, you see that it speaks about 3.5 days. So we're in that third day, and that half day is the deliverance, or like you read about in Matthew 25, that 12th hour. You read about that in book of Exodus chapter 11, the children of Israel being delivered out of Egypt at midnight. You had I believe that's Exodus chapter 11 and Exodus chapter 10. You had to have a great darkness in the land of Egypt, and you see that happening today. But there was light on the Israelites. Now the Most High God is not going to deliver all Israelites this time. His light is only being shined into his elect, starting with the 144,000 and the 1/3. Verse 3. Then shall we know, if we follow on, to know the Lord, his going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain into the earth. And that's why Yahweh Shai Mashiach is called the morning star. Why? Because when he returns as an angelic power to destroy Babylon, America Babylon the Great, he's gonna give us that spiritual power, which is the morning star, which is he's going to put the law in our inward parts. We'll be joined unto him, which is you read about that in Matthew chapter 25. At midnight, the bridegroom came, and you see that in the world today. You see midnight comes to pass, and then a few hours, as the hours go by, you have that morning. You have the light shining from that darkness. You have night into day, because this is America Babylon Great is compared unto the valley of the shadow of death, that is of great darkness. So this is we're in that great darkness now. But those virgins that are wise, which is the 1/3, they have their oils burning, which has to do with this understanding, being diligent, crying out, watching as well as praying. So it says, and he shall come unto us as the rain, and as the latter and former rain upon the earth. Why? Because you read about that in book of Ezekiel chapter 37, the valley of the dry bones. You read about in the book of Isaiah about wash ye, and make you clean. You read about that in the writings of Paul, the epistles, washing with the water with the water of the word. Yahweh Shai Mashiach, he said in John chapter 6, he said, these words that I speak unto you, they are spirit. Why? Because there's a spirit on these words to clean you. The book of Psalms says that the law is perfect, making one wise, making his face to shine, so that water is being given with the word, that light, which the law is a light. And Yahweh Shai Mashiach, he is the embodiment of the law. It comes in the volume of the book. So you see, all these things are cohesive. The Bible is cohesive. Now let's go on to the next precept. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 11 and verse 1. When Israel was a child, then I loved him, called my son out of Egypt. So Yahweh Shai Mashiach was called out of Egypt as a child to return back to Jerusalem. The children of Israel were called out of in Exodus. They were called out of Egypt. And in these latter days, the Most High God will call his elect out of spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom and Egypt. You see? This is 2nd Esdras 7 and 28. Second Esdras 7 and 28. For my son Yahweh Shai shall be revealed with those that be with him, and they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years. So Yahweh Shai Mashiach had to come on the scene. Like you read in the book of Hosea, chapter 6 and verse 2. 2 days. The third day he will raise us up. We're in the third day. And we'll live in the sight when we're delivered out of America Babylon the Great, given spiritual power. Like it says in the book of Revelation, that Jerusalem, holy city, and coming down from heaven. So these things will come to pass. And this is what the prophet Ezra saw. So Yahushua Mashiach was revealed during the time of the Romans, the time of the first fruits. And they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years. This is talking about from the 1500s, which was during the times of the Renaissance, up until the roughly the 1969, 1970, when the truth came out of One West. Started with Abba Bivens, Harlem, New York, 125th Street, and the continued with the Elders and Apostles of Great Millstone, which is roughly 400 years. So you had Esau had to return back into power during that time. The book of Revelation chapter 20 says that he'll be loosed for a season to deceive the nations. And so that's the 400 years. You read about that in the book of Revelations, the holy city being trodden down for 42 months, which is a month is a year. And I'm not going to go into the math of that, but basically it's supposed to be 42 months is 420 years in prophetic talk. So but it says here in 400 years. Why? Because Yahushua Mashiach, his ministry, he started his ministry in 33, the age of 33, something like that. So but the point is that this is roughly, it says within 400 years. It's talk about the when Esau came into power. 2nd Ezra 7:29, and or 30, and the world shall be turned into the old silence 7 days, like is in the former judgments, so that no man shall remain. And after 7 days, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up. That's the third day. The book of Hosea 6:2, and in book of Revelation chapter 11, which we'll go over. Now 7 is 7. That's a spiritual number. 10 means completion. 7 is a perfection. So it says, and that shall die that is corrupt. So after 7 days, the nation of Israel will be raised up in these latter days. And that shall die that is corrupt. That which is corrupt are the 2/3. Why? Because they're not crying out. They did not seek the Most High God while he still may be found. Verse 32, and the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her, and so shall the dust, those that dwell in silence, and the secret places shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them. So this is, you read about this in the book of Thessalonians, about those who were in the graves. Those that are in the graves, they will also be caught up into the chariots, right along with the elect. They'll have the first part in the first part in the resurrection in the chariots. Those who die for this testimony. Now let's go back to the Exodus 10 and 21. Just going to touch on these precepts real quick. Exodus 10 and 21. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thy hand towards heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And this is, Yahweh Shai Mashiach. He spoke about his goat being divided from the sheep. And the goats are ultimately the 2/3. The sheep are his elect that follow the Lamb whatsoever he goeth. It's talking about the 1/3, starting with the 144,000. So you had that separation back then, which is a shadow of future events. And that darkness was even felt, which is, you read about this in the book of Isaiah. Let me see if I can get that precept. About great darkness covering the people. But unto you, and covering the earth. But the Most High and his light being seen upon thee, which is the light, is the knowledge of this truth. And this great awakening, these latter days, Israel coming back unto to remembrance, Yasharallah waking up, which is why this devil knows that he has but a short time. This is Isaiah chapter Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Verse 2. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. And we are in gross darkness. The earth is in gross darkness. Why? Because the Most High gave the dominion to the basest of men, which are the Edomites. And they're not committing judgment. The book of Psalms says that they do not. Salakia, book of Proverbs says that because they did not do judgment, they're going to be destroyed. Surely paraphrasing. Isaiah 60 and 2. And gross darkness the people. And why the people? Well, because the other nations have fallen after Esau's ways and philosophies. They're drunk through his philosophies. They think they're gonna take over and they think they're gonna establish a new world order. And Yahweh Shai Mashiach said, if house be divided, it will not stand. So the Most High is confounding these devils, causing division, making them to rise up against each other. And so these other nations are drunk. You have nations like China, Russia, they think they're going to be the next superpower. But the Most High God, in the book of Job, it speaks about the deceived and the deceiver being his. So the people, there's darkness over the people, over the earth. But the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee, which is through this word, through the testimony that his people have. The sons of God being revealed in the regeneration, which are the Israelites, so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. Now, let's go back to Exodus chapter 10 and verse 21. Exodus 10 and 21. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thy hand toward heaven, so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Now, verse 3, they saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, which we're in the third day. And this is how you know we're at the end of this thing, because in the third day the Most High would raise us up. And the Egyptians, they saw not one another. In the book of Isaiah 19, it says the Egyptian will fight against Egyptian. The book of 2nd Ezra says that he will smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will not suffer them to dwell in the land of Egypt, which are his elect. So they're not seeing each other. Why? Because the Most High is blinding them, blinding their counsels. They're rising up one against another. But the prophet Daniel, he saw the last of this system, which is the iron and miry clay, which is the EU, NATO, all these other conglomerates, which ultimately will rise up against this great whore and burn her up. But it reads, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Why? Because the Most High visited the whole nation of Israel during this time. But those who have the true understanding and the that's been revealed in these latter days, they know that the Most High God will not deliver all the nation of Israel this time over. Why? Because things were written for you to seek the Most High, from the Most High, while they still could be found. 2/3 will not cry out. 2/3 will go to their produce, to their barns, to their work, to their cattle, following after their own lust. You read that in the book of Jude. Following after the way of Cain. And after Balaam, after the reward of Balaam, they're running for a reward. They're running after the ways of Cain, which is Cain, he slew his own brother. This is so Exodus 10 and 21, there a darkness which may be felt, and Isaiah 60 and 2. But the Most High God, his light is rising upon his elect. Which let's go to book of Exodus chapter 11 and verse 4. And Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt. So this is Moses speaking to Pharaoh, saying that at midnight he will cut off the firstborn in the land of Egypt. The Most High God, he's going to cut off 2/3 of our people. Why? Because they're following after the ways of Cain. They want to remain those Egyptians. And it says in the book of Isaiah 19, Egyptian will rise up against Egyptian. This is talking about 2/3 of our people that will give themselves unto rebellion, falling after rebels. Book of Proverbs says to fear the Most High God and to reverence the King, and meddle not with those that are given unto rebellion. The book of Romans 13, chapter 13 says to follow the ways of the land, the laws of the land. Now, so 1/3, the elect will not be deceived by his philosophies, by his pseudoscience, by his counsels. Why? Because the Most High God has revealed them to prophets that he had raised up here in America, Babylon Great. Exodus 11 and 4. So midnight, we're approaching midnight. And you can read about that in the book of Matthew chapter 25, and I did a video touching on some of those points. But I'm going to revisit Matthew 25 because this pertains onto this lesson here. Matthew 25 and 1. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps. You see, you have that light by keeping your oil burning. being diligent in this thing. You have to grow in this thing. You got to understand the 100% truth, and go out and teach your people, those that are able-bodied, those that have been built up to be able to continue in the doctrine of the elders and apostles of GMS. So Matthew 25:1, then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps, and 10 is a complete number, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 of them were foolish. So out of that complete number, which is the whole nation of Israel, 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. So there's going to be a part that will be wise. There's going to be a part that will be foolish. The part of Israel will be cut off. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. So this is talking about the wise and the foolish. While the bridegroom tarried, because the Most High, through Yahweh Shai Mashiach, said, surely paraphrasing, see if I can get that precept. Watch while I tarry. Or actually, I might bring that up in another video. But Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, he said, tarry until I come. To be diligent, to watch as well as pray. That goes into tarrying until Yahweh Shai Hamashiach returns to deliver his elect. And it says they all slumbered and slept. Why? Because we all fell off as a nation. We fell into a Gentile state of mind. So we all were spiritually asleep until that third day, which is now. Verse 6, and at midnight there was a cry made, which is, we're approaching at midnight, and at midnight is the beginning of the light, which is 2nd Ezra 6 and 7. Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. It is talking about a transition of power. And at midnight there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. And you see, there is a cry being made. Ultimately, through this word, by speaking the judgments written therein. Verse 7, then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. So they all rose. Why? Because the wise and the unwise are given a chance to hear this truth via the internet, via the highways and byways, via the word of mouth. You have celebrities speaking about the Israelites. You have people, that is the main topic today, are the Israelites. And the foolish said unto the wise, give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. These are those that have took their hand off the plow. They may have came into this truth. Their lamps went out. They came in and they fell out. Why? Because that's the Most High's will. This is why we call ourselves the hopeful elect. So verse 9, but the wise answered, saying, not so, lest there be not enough oil for us and for you, but go rather to them that sell and buy for yourselves. Verse 10, while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage. Now marriage in the Greek is gamos, which is, you read about that in the book of Revelation 21 and 2. It speaks about the wedding, them being bid unto the marriage, unto the wedding. Blessed are those that are bid unto the wedding, to the marriage, which in the Greek is gamos. which is a derivative of gam, which means to bind, to unite. Why? Because the Most High is going to unite us with Him through Yahushua Mashiach. And how is that going to be done? By the chariots, the deliverance. What these so-called the so-called Christians, they call themselves talking about a rapture, but it's not talking about, it's not talking about everybody, and it's not a rapture. This is talking about the Most High delivering His elect via the angels, the Elohim, the powers. This is Matthew 25, and so they went with him into the marriage. The door was shut. Now let's go to Luke 21 and 24. Luke 21 and 24. Salakia. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, till the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So the time of the Gentiles is the completion of this at the 12th hour, midnight. The 12th hour, that transition from night unto morning, darkness unto light. 2nd Ezra 6 and 7. That's when that time will be fulfilled. And Jerusalem, like I said, was a people before it was a place. Will be trodden down. You read about that in this is Revelation 11 and 2. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 2. But the court which is without the temple leave out, measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. It's talking about roughly 420 years, which is 1500s up until roughly 1970s, when the truth was came out of one West. And this is Hosea chapter 6 and verse 3. You may have read that already. Salakia. Hosea 6 and 3. Then shall we know if we follow on to the Lord, His going forth is prepared as the morning. So we're entering that spiritual morning. That this is why Yahushua Mashiach is called the day star. Why? Because there's going to be a transition of power. The book of Psalms 110 says He will wound the head over many nations. This is Genesis 22. Actually, I'll skip that. Genesis 22 and 2. I'll just go to it real quick. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell of thee. And this is talking about the Most High commanding Abraham to sacrifice his only son, and that's a similitude of the Most High sending His only begotten Son, and having him delivered in order to redeem His people. That's a shadow of things that were to come to pass. And we are making that ultimate sacrifice today by making our bodies a living sacrifice, which is why um, verse verse 8 says, and Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And this is talking about Yahweh Shai Mashiach, ultimately, as a shadow of things to come, him being offered for the nation of Israel. But now we are offering our bodies as a living sacrifice, like Abraham offered his only begotten son, forsaking the ways of this world, and starting with the 144,000, and then the 1/3, and verse 12, and he said, lay not thy hand upon thy lad, neither do thou any harm unto him. Now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thine son, thine only son, from me. So that's an ultimate sacrifice that Abraham was ready to do. And we are supposed to be ready to make that ultimate sacrifice, which is our bodies a living sacrifice, to preach this truth, to spread the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Holy Bible as Israelites in these latter days. And let's go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 17. Hebrews 11:17. Salakia. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he had received the promises. And he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So that was his continuance of his posterity. That was in Isaac, which he was ready to offer it up, which was the continuance of his generation, which is ultimately those who understand that is the ultimate sacrifice, which is but many, like it says in the book of Jude, will follow after the ways of Cain. Cain slew his brother, and what happened? He was cut off in the flood. 2/3 of our people will be cut off in this new flood, which is by fire, because the earth will be flooded with fire in Armageddon, World War III, the ICBM missiles, Yahweh Shai Mashiach coming with the chariots. So this is that ultimate sacrifice that we're doing by offering up our bodies as a living sacrifice. Those who believe in this testimony of the elders and apostles, GMS, those who believe that the Most High God has raised up prophets here in America, Babylon Great. Verse 20. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. So this is about Jacob and Esau. This is not about the Ishmaelites. This isn't about the Moabites taking the next seat of power. This isn't about the Russians being the next superpower. This is it. This is about Esau being in the end of the world, Jacob having that next rulership when it's all said and done. This is what the Holy Bible is about. This is about the Israelites, God's chosen people. you so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. And you can read on down, verse 23. Moses forsook Egypt. He was not afraid of the king's commandment. He refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He rather suffered the affliction than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, like it says here in verse 25. Because those 2/3 of our people are only enjoying the pleasures of sin for a season. Why? Because these prophecies are coming to pass. This man's system is going down, and the Most High God raised him up so he can throw him down in the eyes of all of the whole earth, in front of the whole world, and you other nations. Most High God is going to throw you down for helping forward the affliction. Thus saith the Holy Bible. But it says, and it reads, verse 26, he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. And he esteemed the reproaches of Hamashiach greater than the treasures of Egypt. So Moses forsook Egypt. He esteemed the reproach of Hamashiach greater than the riches treasures in Egypt. Which is why Hamashiach Yahushua said, gather treasures where moth does not corrupt. But 2/3 of our people are following after these worldly riches, and the book of James says that these riches are cankered, meaning they got blood on them, and they will not last. Thus saith the Holy Bible. Now let's move on. Revelation chapter 19 and verse 9. This is that precept, one of the last precepts I'm going to get. Abaratazah. Revelation 19 and 9. And he saith unto me, write, blessed are they which are called into the marriage supper of the Lamb. The marriage, like I said, is gamos, which is a wedding, which is from the derivative of gam, to unite, to bind. We're going to be united by the chariots unto the Most High God, raised up into the heavens. We're going to watch this destruction, Lord willing, if we're of that number, from the skies, and descend as that great city with the law in our inward parts. And that has to do with the whole nation of the elect, the 1/3, the remaining, those who forsake Egypt, flee the shadow of this world. The 1/3, starting with 144,000. Revelation 21 and 2. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So ultimately, it doesn't say how long of a window this is going to be, but ultimately the elect will be delivered, watch the destruction, and will have the laws in their inward parts, given spiritual power, come back down on the earth, burn the weapons of war, like it says in Ezekiel, I believe, chapter 38, and put your other nations in captivity, starting with the Edomites for 1,000 years, and then children of Esau getting Obadiah 1 and 18, and then order being set on the earth after your other nations are taught all over again. And then you will be placed in your own land. Thus saith the Holy Bible. But all these things will not happen until the last of these prophecies come to pass. This devil has to mandate the RFID chip, the mark of the beast, that digital all. There has to be a gathering of the nations in Armageddon, in the east, in the Middle East, which is when Yahushua Mashiach comes and destroys the land of Egypt with the chariots, with the ISBM missiles. Second Timothy chapter 2 and verse 10. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 10. Therefore I endure all things for the elect's sakes, that they may also obtain the salvation which is in Hamashiach Yahushai with eternal glory. So the Apostle Paul said he endures all things for the elect's sakes. And we, starting with the elders and apostles, great millstone, those that are continuing in the doctrine, because we learn from them. And me personally, I'm just a servant. I'm just a minister, and just like Paul, like it says in the Hebrew, Rai, which is a pastor. We're just feeding the lambs of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, those that believe that the Most High God has raised up prophets in Babylon the Great, which is America, so that others may obtain this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through the power of Spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. This is Romans chapter 13, verse 11. Romans 13 and 11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to wake out of sleep. We're in that third day. Now is our salvation nearer than we believed, because these prophecies are coming to pass. The Most High God, His word is tried and true. Verse 12. The night is far spent. The day is at hand. We're approaching that 12th hour. We're approaching the transition of kingdoms. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light, which is this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The whole roll, the volume of the book. With that, giving all honor and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash, giving double honors to the elders and apostles of Green Mill Stone, and who taught us this truth. We say Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, Abba Babal, Shalom.